Welcome back to your number one top 4 PSO2 New Genesis gameplay how-tos, and well, I'm very wet today, probably because my power went out and all my lights have reset it, but nonetheless, we are here to discuss what is happening in the upcoming headline stream for New Genesis that will be airing on Tuesday morning, which, by the way, I will be covering it. I will be live here on YouTube, so you know what to do if you don't want to miss that. But nonetheless, we did find out we're going to be getting some information about the upcoming crossover that going to end up happening in June with the version 2 update, or like super quote to it anyway. And today we are going to be going over all the crossover that have a very likelihood of happening, as well as some stuff that I'm personally hoping for. But before we hop into all that, I do want to give a big thank you to everybody that's supporting over on patreon.com/Maconn, Twitch, as well as memberships here on YouTube, and of course, a giant shout out to 1K. So with that, let's jump into this.
As well as crossover quests with other works that we have never collaborated with before.
So as you can see from that clip from the last headline stream, they did say that Sega plan is to work with a franchise and a company that they haven't worked with previously in the past. And the thing to keep in mind, there was a crap ton of crossovers in PSO2, and if we never really saw most of them outside of a handful. But nonetheless, there was a lot that they have already done, such as Capcom, as well as Square Enix. And originally, one of my guesses was like, hey, maybe they're going to do a Final Fantasy 16 crossover, especially with, Final Fantasy 16 coming in just a few weeks. But as most of you know, they did do a crossover with Final Fantasy 14 for bait PSO2 that I'm still very sad we never got in the West. So obviously 16 is going to be off the table. So let's go ahead and just jump into the stuff that I know, at least to my knowledge, is companies or franchises that never have been touched. That is what we are going to be working with here. So let's go ahead and get the fourth one out of the gate that I know everybody in the board have been wanting pretty much for years at that point, which is of course BLEACH. Which BLEACH is obviously why this is such a requested crossover, especially since a lot of the weapons, Honkai, and outfit would honestly work pretty good inside of New Genesis, especially for like weapon camos and whatnot, and animations for like emotes and idling stuff. So this is one that I'm 100% agree with, would need to happen at some point, and seems a little more likely to be a thing, especially since we do got the second season of the new BLEACH anime starting up in early July, if I remember correctly. So since that is kind of around the corner, that might be a good time to do a promotion, as well as BLEACH not only being what it is in Japan, but also here in the West. And if I don't think us really play into a lot of this, because let's be honest, do Sega care about players outside Japan beyond the bare minimum? That is a whole different discussion. So maybe the whole wish for the US side maybe not going to matter in the end. But nonetheless, I do agree BLEACH would be fantastic. And then my next guess is a little more controversial, especially if you know like the backstory of what have happened with the franchise creator over the last few years. But nonetheless, we do need to talk about this, because once again, we are getting a new anime here very soon, and that is the core of Rurouni Kenshin. Kenshin is another one, if what happened didn't happen, would honestly not be a bad thing to come to NGF now. Would it is what it is, but nonetheless, just same as BLEACH, the aesthetic choices as well as some of the camos and whatnot would also fit in pretty well into NGS as a whole here. But hopefully this is not happening, but I'm still going to put it on the table anyway, especially since we do got that new anime series starting up as well pretty soon, just like BLEACH. So we will see if that happens, but that will be my second guess. And then one that might be a little more closer to heart for me, as well as it technically a semi-Sega property. I know that we'll get iffy because, like they said, partner they haven't worked with, which I get in continuity here, might actually be still accurate, which is called Platinum Games. And some of you might know where I'm going with this, but you probably know I am a pretty huge Bayonetta fan, and honestly, I would love to see a crossover with Bayonetta. Once again, this is another one that would be fantastic for like weapon camo as well as animation, especially once you bring in like all the dancing and stuff. And this seemed like something that might be happening, especially since Elite on the Nintendo Platinum side, there's been a pretty big push for Bayonetta over the last year or so with Bayonetta 3, as well as the little, I guess, spin-off thing they did as well. And of course, with it being still technically tied to Sega, but mainly being a Nintendo Platinum thing, maybe it's a little bit of a loophole here. Once again, maybe this is just me doing wishful thinking, but nonetheless, I would love to see a crossover with a Bayonetta. But let's go ahead and get into the stuff that will be probably very huge for PSO2 if it did end up happening here. That our next two guesses are going to be series that is far beyond the scope of PSO, of which we will see if PSO or Sega have the pull for either one of these. And of course, one of them is mainly one video game and one anime. And of course, let's go ahead and talk about the video game one here, which is called Honkai Star Rail here. Since the game, as we all know, being made by the same devs that worked on Genshin, as well as just how big that is just by default in a lot of ways. Or hell, maybe any Genshin could also fit into the table. If I feel like Star Rail probably be more pushing for that, especially since that just recently came out. And also, we can get our hands on a whole bunch of cosplay items out. And honestly, we'll probably pull in a lot of people that have never even bothered of playing PSO. And also could be something that might actually be fairly helpful in revolts, especially when it comes to JP. But nonetheless, I could see this being probably, honestly, the last two being like probably the more accurate ones for what we're going to see. And honestly, I'd be cool just being able to get that bunny suit from the train, to be totally honest. But nonetheless, that is my video game pick for the crossover. And then for anime crossover, we need to talk about one of the biggest anime from this season. And from the way it seemed, one of the biggest manga/anime in Japan right now, which is, of course, OSHI NO KO. Which I probably butchered that, I'm sorry in advance. But nonetheless, this anime is pretty much the biggest thing around right now. And I know over here in the West, they pretty much have took the anime community as a whole. And honestly, that might be a bigger get than Honkai would be, especially for pulling in people outside of the gaming field into this. And honestly, we'll also probably bring in a whole bunch of new meme culture coming in from that, as long as we don't think about some of the stuff that happened in that series. But nonetheless, this could be a very huge one. So I feel like between all the ones I have named here, OSHI and Honkai probably is the two most likely, as well as the two that could benefit the game itself at fall of getting more eyes on NGS. But, I'm still very partial and still wishing for Bayonetta and BLEACH. But then again, I think most of us are on that end. But with that being said, let me know in the comment below what you think going to actually be announced here. Will it be something that totally out of nowhere? Will it be maybe, who knows, maybe it could be something that, it's mainly a Japanese thing that really no one here in the West really know or care about. I guess we will find out on a Tuesday morning. And once again, I will be covering the headline stream at, of course, 15-minute till, which will be 6:45 a.m. Central Standard Time on Tuesday, when we'll be hopping into everything that will be coming in the headline stream before we get our hands on creative faces, as well as whatever come after that, since we do know we got a new story campaign they haven't talked about, and a few other things as well. But before we head on out of here, thank you so much for checking out that video, and if you have found it helpful in any way, shape, or form, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and you know, hit all the buttons below. And thank you, my dudes. And of course, like always, I will go ahead and see you in the comments.